Okay, so here we are again. I can only make my videos 15 minutes long because my little recorder deal doesn't go any further than that. But if I push W, I can kind of see a little bit more of the raw construction of this file, just like the margins that some of these shapes are kind of overlapping into. So I actually went ahead and made a rectangle using the rectangle tool, and I made two of those. I just pasted and made two, and I stacked them up because actually if you push W, you can see that it actually adds a lot more richness to that red in the background. Without it, it didn't look quite as, I don't know, quite as good. And it also helps the text pop a little bit more, having it doubled up like that. And you might say, well, why don't you just turn up the opacity? I mean, but it's still, even if you do that, it does help actually. Maybe I should just do that actually. I guess it just darkens it up a little bit more to have them stacked. And turning up the opacity does help too. But then it almost becomes too dark because I do want that to stick out decently. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I don't know which one I like better, but see, and then sometimes you just never know what you like until you give it a try. And they do look different. I mean, if you just turn up the opacity as opposed to stacking things and using the multiply effect, you know, you just have to try it. Okay, well, actually, that looks pretty good. And I wonder if I should move my picture. So if I push Control and just keep, oh no, not Control, Command, and just keep clicking, and also if I have my links panel open, it'll tell me if I have that selected, and then I can push Shift and hold Shift down and click, and I'll have both of these mountains image. And if I push W, this will kind of help me see how much wiggle room I have here, because I almost want to like bring this down even more, because it says Study Design Under the Big Sky, and I kind of want that to be in the sky. Of course, once I did that, I'm going to have to crop this up by using the black selection tool, and I can kind of just crop that photo up so that it's not showing underneath this shape here. So I think I like that better. And then you can see Baldy a little bit better, the Baldy mountain that's in the Bear Paw range. I might actually just tap this up just a smidge because it's really close to this point. I don't want there to be a tension there, but I also still want there to be, maybe I don't need to do that. And I can also like potentially, you know, triple click kind of, or just drag to select, and then we can change, like, instead of 59 as being the spacing in between the two lines here, MSU Northern Study, so that space in between there, we can change that over here by either manually entering a number or using the arrows. I'm not sure. I mean, sometimes you just have to try stuff. I actually do kind of like it further away because it does need to have a little bit of breathing room. I'd almost like to make the graphic design at MSU Northern bigger because, I mean, if you think about it, you know, and if you do Command minus, you can kind of step back almost visually from your poster. Is that title gonna be viewed from very far away? Like, are you gonna be able to see that? Probably not. Like, it's actually not that big of a title, so I almost wonder if I shouldn't try to make that a little bit, fill in this space a little bit more actually. So if you just, you know, select that, you can change the size here, or do Shift Command less than or greater than symbols on the keyboard. If you want to learn how to do that, just Google it, or I can show you in class. I think it's the greater than and less than symbols on the keyboard, that I think that's what they're called. But so, like, as you can see, my box got too small, so I'm going to have to drag out the sides of the box to kind of get that to fit a little bit better. And then I'm going to have to adjust the leading, which is the space in between those lines of text. So, I mean, if we kind of take it back, see, it's much more visible at that size from far away. I mean, that's just a rough way of kind of seeing how visible stuff is on your actual design. And, you know, maybe the fact that this is going over my diamond shape is actually okay. Like, visually, it might be getting a little bit cluttered. I mean, you know, maybe I need to move this stuff down. So I'm going to push W. So I have all this stuff selected that I need to select. And I mean, I would have to move it down to here. And once again, I'm running into issues with covering up my mountain range more than I wanted to. Because it would have to come all the way down here. And then this stuff, I mean, so I have to move these boxes up because they need to be bigger now, which can be kind of hard to find the actual, because I'm starting to get a lot of layers in here, but if you just do command click, you can eventually hit on the box you're trying to select here. Well, and let's see, this needs to come down as well as, which is the picture of the mountains. Shift click so I can get both of them selected. Got to tuck it behind that shape. So now I'm starting to get into the mirror image of the mountains showing up. And I actually have a little trick for that. If I zoom out, you can see the edge of this one. And actually, if I bring it down and clip out that mountain, oops, that's resized it for some reason. Let's grab that again. I guess because I had both of them selected. So if we go into it, you can see where I cropped it. So that's where the mountains start to show up. So if I crop it down and then if I use the free transform tool, I can just stretch it. And that'll give me a little bit more wiggle room. So that's not too bad. It's a little bit better. At least that I got that title to be bigger without overlap on the diamond shape. I can actually move this down now. Which, I mean, this doesn't really go as well. I mean, it goes with like the Havre theme, but it doesn't really, to some degree, because there were, you know, some of the history here. There's Native Americans, and there's a buffalo jump over by the mall, behind the mall. But I wonder if I shouldn't try to use those. And also, this is not high enough in the resolution either. But so if I do Command D, let's go into our images, and here's our Havre pan PSD and our Cowan Hall PSD. So like we could see how this looks in the composition, and this is probably going to get too small as well because I need to make it quite a bit bigger for it to fill it in. So probably something like that. And I used the free transform tool, and you push shift and you click from the edge, and then I went back to my selection tool, black selection tool. So, and then I'll just do object arrange send to back. Excuse me. Let's see. Well, that's looking pretty good. I mean, we could put the gold down here, you know, like the colors of Northern. We could do a screen on either side. That would be a little bit more graphical, like a little bit more, I don't know. So if I take this and I double click here, I just did a Command C, Command V, and I double clicked within the fill color. So if we go in here, what if we made this kind of a nice golden color? I think maybe the color is a little bit, I don't know, something like this. I'm just guessing, honestly, which is kind of funny because it's actually in this diamond shape as well. So if we push W, we can kind of see what that looks like. Obviously, I'm going to bring this above. It actually looks pretty good. And with you guys, I don't want you to necessarily use the school colors. you can be totally creative. It's totally open to you. You know, and it can be even just like a painting type thing with like font kind of integrated into the design, you know, a painting that you scan, and it doesn't have to have any kind of a, as long as it's in the style, either like Art Nouveau or Bauhaus, you know, as long as it's in the style that you originally chose, and it has some of your original artwork in it, either your own photography, or, you know, such as this graphic I made from scratch. I used pinball, an image of a pinball with, I added these, you know, boxes of screen color over it to create a diamond shape. And then I put this, you know, I found a Montana shape, I put that on top. So, you know, I've done a lot of my own construction here with this design. Not necessarily like hand-drawn stuff, like none of it's hand-drawn, but it's all, you know, relatively original. Obviously, the photos don't really count because I just got them off of Jim Potter's book that he made for the university. But and then Helmbrecht's photo from Facebook, which I don't want you guys to do. I want you to take your own photos, use your own photos on your camera. If you're going to be using photos, or, you know, if you see something on Unsplash that you think you can use, then go ahead and grab that, because that's you know, definitely okay. You know, if you need a background texture or something, and you go to Unsplash and you look up, like, you know, watercolor texture and add that as a layer in your document for, you know, extra texture, you know, that would be perfectly acceptable usage of art. But like I said, if you are using, you know, any kind of art from the past, make sure that it's in the public domain, and if it's not, make sure you alter it enough or chop it up enough that you can't really recognize it anymore. But anyways, I'm done with my spiel on, you know, your images, but I know in 231 we kind of just gleamed over that. I didn't really have very many requirements. You could pretty much use whatever you wanted to, and it didn't necessarily need to be high enough resolution. And in this class, I'm really trying to like rein it in and make you guys more accountable for where you're getting your images. Are they high enough resolution? So if you can remember, you know, if you grab your direct selection tool, which is the white tool, and you're able to kind of grab one of your photos, you can actually look in the info panel and it'll tell you what your effective PPI is. The actual PPI of this is 300, but once I screened it up, made it bigger, it actually brought down the DPI. So the bigger and bigger I make this image, the lower and lower the effective PPI will go down. The actual PPI is the DPI that it was actually, or PPI, DPI are the same thing. Dots per inch or pixels per inch, or points per inch or pixels. I can't quite remember, but it's probably pixels per inch. But yeah, it was saved at 300, so that's the actual PPI, but the effective PPI is 165, which is really not very good. But for demonstration's sake, you know, this is kind of what I'm using. But for your guys' files, you're going to have to use 300 DPI photos that have effective DPIs or PPIs of at least 300. 250, you know, if it's 250, I'll probably maybe look the other way. But if you don't want to risk it, definitely make sure it's 300 or higher. So I'm guessing we need to add a logo here, down here. MSU Northern logo. Maybe a phone number, Instagram, and then we might just put a fake one in for now because I don't have one yet. And then we're going to add a little bit more text down here, which would be information on the major. And that's up to you, you know, what you want to add in. But you can use my text if you want. If you feel like you're not very good at coming up with text, you can definitely use my text. But if you come up with an idea, you know, that's great for you guys to, even as a designer, you'll find you have a lot of say in what the text is in your designs. So anyway, I will start the next video since we're running out of time. Okay, bye.